With Chainsaw Man Chapter 192, things have gotten even more out of control than we ever thought possible because Denji found himself falling deeper and deeper into suffering, but it's hidden behind the madness that is Yoru. But as you expect with Chainsaw Man, when you get left with a cliffhanger chapter, the story usually pulls out the rug the very next chapter, and that's exactly what happens here. In the last chapter, we find ourselves thinking that Yoru was going to kill Yoshida and Fumiko, but instead of killing them, she just points her finger at the wall and she blows a hole in it, the ultimate troll move, telling Denji that she's going to teach him how devils play, and then she yanks him through the hole in the wall, and as she's doing so, she's pulling the Chainsaw Man ripcord to jumpstart the process of him transforming. And as you would expect, when Yoru says she's going to teach Denji how to play, the bodies start piling up faster than a Bonnie Blue video shoot, which if you have no idea what that means, then God bless you. You have an innocent soul and never be corrupted by the more impure things in this world. It doesn't take too long for Yoru to start pointing her finger at the person who calls Denji a Chainsaw Man wannabe, and they start just charging forward right there on the spot. And Yoru, she points her finger and she blows the guy's entire body apart, and she's smiling as she's doing so. For her, fun isn't going out to watch a movie like we saw what Makima do with Denji. Fun for her is just utter chaos. And when Denji tries to get onto her, taking the moral high ground, saying, hey, you shouldn't kill people, she reminds him that he doesn't have that much room to talk because he's the one between the two who eats people. And she does have a point. When they were inside of the aging devil's prison, Denji was eating people trapped inside of the trees in order to help Pochita. So Chalk went up to Yoru for saying the quiet part out loud while also taking advantage of one of Denji's weaknesses, basically telling him, you have no room to get onto me. And as we'll see later on, Denji is already beating himself up. However, Denji does have some quick thinking here, and he tries to avoid any more useless slaughter by taking Yoru to a place to eat. But as he's scooping her up and running away with her, Yoru goes from laughing like a mad woman to pointing her finger at the crowd, chasing after them and slaughtering them by shouting bang every single time. Just when you think that the casualties are finally stopping, now that they've gotten to the restaurant with Yoru offering to cook Denji a meal with the food that she's found, she turns around and she kills the manager of the restaurant when Denji asks him to prepare food for them, with Yoru saying, look man, I already told you I was going to cook for you. And we start seeing more of the bratty and possessive side of Yoru coming out on full display, because she's not looking at Denji as a person anymore. She's viewing Denji like a possession, like a weapon that she is ultimately going to claim. After Yoru finishes cooking, the two of them start eating on the rooftop, and Denji's downward spiral is once again shown to us in that it's not quite over yet. When Yoru reveals that the Death Devil is coming to Earth and that all the high-level devils will show up to greet her, which is another sign of building up how insane the Death Devil is going to be for us. But before you can fully digest the gravity of what Yoru's saying, Denji's hurt soul, it begins to start leaking out on screen. He asks if the Control Devil will be there, and Yoru reminds him that if she is there, it won't be the same Control Devil that he knew, which is Fujimoto preparing us for the fact that not only is Nayuta dead, but Denji is about to meet his third Control Devil in the series, and the blows, they don't just stop there either. They just keep rolling on to show you how fractured the psyche of Denji truly is. He brings up power and the premise he made to her at the end of Chainsaw Man Part 1 to find the reincarnated Control Devil, and this is the first time since Part 2 that we've heard a mention of this promise, which is Fujimoto telling us that this was never a false gun. This was never something that was going to potentially never get expounded upon. This is a Chekhov's gun. We will see it. We'll eventually circle back to that promise when we least expect it, and you have to wonder if now that Nayuta's death and the death of their pets, including Meowie, might have had anything to do with Denji coming to the subject of finding the Blood Devil, and Yoru's words about how the new Control Devil, they might also be serving as a warning to us. The next Blood Devil won't be Power. It'll be a different personality than Power. The fact that Fujimoto's reminding us of all this stuff right now is a sign that the high-level devils who Yoru is speaking of, they likely include the Blood Devil and obviously the Control Devil. Things are about to get extremely out of hand, and the impending arrival of the Death Devil, the strongest of the four horsewomen, and the fact that Fujimoto just keeps leveling us with body blow after body blow for Denji, it shows we're gonna get dragged kicking and screaming to that reveal. Denji calls Yoru his only friend, and And then he catches himself when he's thinking obviously about Mitaka, and then he corrects himself saying that Yoru and Mitaka, they are his only friends, in spite of the fact that Yoru's eventually going to turn him into a weapon. And Denji is so broken at this point, he can only say he's having fun right now. So it doesn't matter to him anymore. This leads to Yoru not sitting on Denji's lap, but sitting on the edge of the chair with her butt getting pushed right into his crotch, and she's blushing as she asks him if this counts as them having fun. And you know, internally, Mitaka is screaming, but she isn't the only one suffering out here. Denji is too. But with how the chapter is layered, it can be really easy to miss it unless you read between the lines, and most importantly, you pay attention to the scenery. Denji's whole world, it is burning down in front of him right now. Literally in the sense of the fires that are burning as they sit on the rooftop where buildings are burning in the distance, and you have the damage left behind from the battle with the aging devil. Figuratively, when you realize that his reputation as Chainsaw Man, it has been ruined by all these fake Chainsaw Mans running around causing chaos internally with the exhaustion that has been built up over the last days in universe, and verbally in his expressing the memories about power in Nayuta. He's right for being emotionally taken advantage of to a point he doesn't even care about being turned into a weapon. And even worse, last chapter he didn't even try to hesitate to kill Yoshida and Fumiko. He just went for it. Denji is completely exhausted to a point even when he remembers his promise to power, he just feels destroyed and downtrodden because he knows the next blood devil he meets, it won't be his friend. He's someone who has lost so much, and the losses, they just keep piling up one after the other for him. And Yoru, she's in prime position to take advantage of it, with Denji's greatest weakness against him being his lust for women. Yoru takes a page straight out of Makima's playbook yet again by using her sexuality to manipulate Denji, or at least attempt to do so. Yoru isn't as subtle and feminine as Makima was. Makima had a whole generation of men in universe completely simping for her, but Yoru can just turn it on just enough to hook her claws into Denji. And the reason why Denji falls for it yet again is that he has been this person his entire life, and sadly he's no different than you or I. For the average person, we all have vices that we can't shake, some more worse than others, and for some of us it requires us being forced to learn a lesson the hard way more than one time before we get it. Some of us require learning the same lesson several times, and in some cases we never learn it at all because we refuse to learn. As the old folks like to say, that's just somebody hard-headed. Only time will tell which path that Denji walks down, though, but the common theme that we're seeing out of all this is that between both Yoru and Makima is that when they hook their claws into Denji in the deepest, it's been when he's been on the rebound from an emotional break. Whether or not Yoru's able to get her claws into Denji as deep as Makima remains to be seen. Denji fell for Makima right after Aki died. Now, Denji is falling for Yoru after the realization of Nayuta being gone forever is fully hitting him. And it's at the same time he's realizing that the next blood devil is not going to be power. He saw her dead body. He went into shock when he saw Nayuta on the head, but now we see he's fully reconciled with this fact. He is mentally weakened, he is unstable, and he's back believing that he deserves the pain that he's feeling. In writing, the landscape, the background scenery, if you will, it can be both used as a backdrop like most people associate scenery with being, but a good writer will also tell you that it can be used as a character itself, or in this case, it can be a case of reflection of the mental state of mind of the main character. And that's what we see here as Denji is watching the world burn down in front of him. It's mirroring the current reality of his soul. The only question is, what will be able to put out those flames so that Denji can finally begin to start finding peace with himself and finally start healing. And once he starts healing, he can finally start growing. Make no mistake, he needs to heal because he's broken enough. He's called going out on that murdering spree with Yoru to be fun. When you go back to part 1, when he had that thing at Reze, someone who was actually good for him, the guy said he couldn't live with himself if more innocent people died. Look at where we're at now. Once again, Denji finds himself being dragged into a morally messed up situation by an attractive woman. He's in a catch-22 situation. He wants to make a connection, yet he's walking beside someone who seemingly doesn't really care for him. You could argue, based on where we are right now, Yoru's no different than Makima. Makima only cared for Chainsaw Man, not Denji, and Yoru only truly cares for Chainsaw Man. Though you could argue she might have caught feelings for Denji by sharing a body with Mitaka, who really does like Denji, but that remains to be seen if that's going to be the case. Denji feels like he's on the cusp of just giving up, just like he did when Makima got him to break right before Power died. Will this be the case now? We can't necessarily say we know for certain, but in the meantime, the next chapter, thankfully, is gonna be out in 7 days, so we don't have to wait too long to see how this plays out. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking out more videos here on the left and right from Anime Explained if you want to check out more anime content.